Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on mysterious and weird, true stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case file number 586, written by WeazelKordos. I saw my dead father again. I saw my dead father driving a car. I was 11 at the time he died. When I was a kid, he would tell me that once I got taller, he'd get me to play 8-ball pool with him. This never happened because he died before I was even 5'4". Fast forward to Saturday night, I was playing 8-ball pool with my friends. At one moment, the memory of him telling me that once I got tall, he'd get me to play with him crossed my mind, and I sort of wished we had got to play. I didn't pay much attention though. On our way back to our homes, being on foot, we were walking on the road but made room for cars to pass whenever they approached us. Once we were about 3 blocks away from my house, I saw a car passing by, with my father as a driver. I'm so sure it was him. I've seen his dead body, so he can't be alive. And even if he was, why would he be driving in our neighborhood? I almost screamed and wanted to start running so as to catch the car, but I figured out it would be pointless. I even thought of throwing my phone at the car so as to catch his attention. I kinda regret it now. I'm not sure. Honestly, it's not like I miss him like hell and think of him 24/7, so I don't think my mind would have made this up. Case notes, file number 586. A lot of possibilities to unpack in this short story. First, you saw your dad's body, so him having faked his death for some reason is unlikely. Not entirely impossible though. There are stories of people faking their death through drugs or look-alike bodies at the funeral. For what though? To go through that much trouble? Maybe he was in witness protection, but for some reason could never come out of hiding even years or decades later? But he had to see his son regardless of the risks. Another possibility is that it wasn't your dad in the car, but instead his spirit or his echo that lingered behind, keeping an eye on you. Feeling your spirit thinking of him, of the missed chances between you two, and made you see him in the car to give you hope and to keep you going. You say that you don't think of him a lot, but I guess in the moments that you do, they're fairly intense. He's unable to materialize himself entirely to get those 8 balls in, but just enough to give you hope from a car. Case file number 587, written by thatcliquekandy. Script, The Lives of Others. Okay, now me and my sister write what we call stories. It's our getaway from our actual life. We make up characters and write them going on little adventures. Sometimes if some drama is happening in our life, we put ourselves into certain stories and make us live out our dream life with our family. It all seemed well and good until we started making things happen in real life. For instance, we're not psychopaths by any means, but we do like to make it interesting. So in the story, in I think 2011, we made our aunt and uncle get into a car accident. Fast forward to 2021, and they get into a car accident. That's a one-off, we thought, but then it got weirder. We were trying to figure out a guy that we could possibly let our cousin be with, that we made up in the story. So we just looked at each other and said, let's name the guy Josh. Fast forward a couple years. Lo and behold, she gets with Josh. Then we know it doesn't snow or have any snowstorms or blizzards here in Texas, so we thought it'd all be funny and interesting to put a snowstorm/blizzard into our stories with us in Texas. Because I mean, it wouldn't really do that in Texas, right? Wrong. February 2021, the great Texas snowstorm apocalypse happens. Then some people we make break up in the stories, break up in real life, even though the real life relationships were going so well. We did it in our stories to make it seem interesting. Am I going crazy? Like, am I looking too much into this? Again, me and my sister are not insane by any means. Everyone in our family knows we do it and even tells us to be careful in what we put in our stories now. I can't tell if they're joking or if they're serious. This originally, and still is, a way for me and my sister to escape the drama that is our real life. It's a lot of fun, but I almost feel scared to make anything dramatic happen anymore. Bonus file, written by Angel Wing, N7. 1 death to a warning. I, 39 female, was 22 years old when it happened. I can still remember the dream vividly. I was on a battlefield with a sword in one hand and holding a shield with my left hand. I was part of some army surrounded by soldiers like me, and we all started charging forward when we heard the buzzing of a horn of some sort. After taking a few steps, I look up and see a rain of arrows falling down on us. I raised my shield, but I was too late. I felt a horrible sting on my chest, and I fell down on my back. Everything started to go dim. I could still feel the arrow piercing me more as it swung back and forth, so I held the arrow stick and broke it. The piercing stopped, but I felt my mouth getting filled with blood. I saw a vision of my mom come and hold my hand. She was crying. Then it felt like all life just faded in my body and my eyes closed and everything went dark and silent. I woke up soaked. I didn't have any chest pains or any scars or bruises of any sort on my chest. All day I was agonized by the experience, but the effect of the dream eventually faded out. A few months after I had that dream, I had a bowel infection and was hospitalized due to severe fever and dehydration. There in the emergency room, as an intern was listening to my chest with a stethoscope, paused and asked me, "Do you have a coronary disease?" I said no. He said he heard a strange murmur and asked for further examination. They found out that there was a tear/hole in my heart septum, 3.5 centimeters in radius, and they got me an open heart surgery as soon as my bowel infection was healed. During my stay in the hospital, a lot of doctors and interns came to visit me. They asked me weird questions like if I had never been to a doctor's office or a hospital and clinic before. On the contrary, all of my childhood I was struggling with fever that came almost every 2 months. I was an addict in my teenage years, and I overdosed twice, one of which required strict heart monitorings as I had overdosed on stimulants. I was informed that almost all babies are born with that defect, but in most cases, the body reconstructs the defected part of the septum by itself. And even if it doesn't, the radius of the defect does not exceed a few millimeters. They were so surprised how all of those doctors that had examined me so far could have missed such a huge defect in the heart. They told me that because of that hole in the septum, all the clean blood was going back to my lungs. They told me I should have experienced growth and physical activity issues like not being able to run, etc. That I should have been no taller than 150 centimeters, weighing less than 40 kilograms, and probably must have been dead or bound to bed by now. But there I was, 176 centimeters, 55 kilograms. I was in the school swimming and basketball team until my addiction started taking over control. I was constantly going into checkups before tournaments. All that drinking and smoking and substance abuse would have also had the worst effect on me. But there I was, hospitalized just because of eating a fruit that wasn't washed properly. I still think something like that can be possible. That I internalized that dream of maybe an alternate universe so deeply, and it was all related to my current state. What are your thoughts? Bonus file written by Judy 2016. The Man Out of Place by Time. This happened maybe 10 years ago when I was around 18, but I have never forgotten it. I lived in a semi-rural area growing up and was killing time driving down a back road by myself one afternoon. I was about to turn onto a dirt road where I like to drive sometimes since it was not well traveled. An old abandoned shack sat right before the road I was turning onto, and so I was right in front of it when I was slowing to turn. Since I was on basically a leisure drive with nowhere to really be or go, I had been kind of zoned out. I don't know if that's why I didn't see him, but I didn't until I was right in front of the shack. There was an elderly man right beside the highway, like he was waiting for a ride. He was dressed in a gray suit that looked like it was from another era, wearing a fedora and holding a briefcase. We each saw each other, and he smiled and waved at me like he had been waiting for me. If he had been there the whole time, I would have had about 1/8 of a mile to spot him, and he was in the same area I would have been focusing on, so I have a hard time thinking I just didn't see him the whole time. He did not blend in, and there were no trees or anything to obscure my view of him. I was not really scared, but I was definitely confused. I picked up the pace and drove down the dirt road and made my way home by another path. I never saw him again, and from what I know, there is no one that lived there for decades. I've always wondered if he was really there, and if so, who he was.